I'm certain that many of you American viewers have fond, nostalgic memories of visiting a Redbox kiosk at a local Walgreens or Walmart to rent out a movie to watch or a game to play for the night. These bright red entertainment vendors had a total lifespan of 22 years, first hitting the scene in 2002, reaching their peak in 2013 with kiosks at more than 30,000 stores nationwide, and getting pummeled by online streaming services before filing for bankruptcy in 2024. I think it's safe to say they were doomed when the era of physical media was brought to a halt. It might be fitting that at the tail end of the company's reign, they once again brought people out of their homes to hit up their local kiosk to get discs of flicks. How so? Well, let me tell you about the great Redbox Plunder of 2024. It had been years since I heard anything related to Redbox, and even longer since I'd visited a kiosk myself to rent out a movie. In July of 2024, I read the headlines. Redbox and its parent company, called Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, filed for bankruptcy. Not surprising. Streaming had been the dominant form of accessing film and TV for years now, and Redbox was clearly a dinosaur in this market. The Red was dead. The advertisements next to the kiosks were permanently stuck on the top hits of the day. Barbie, Super Mario Bros., The Whale, and others. Now, with the company going bankrupt, you might expect that the Redbox kiosks would all start getting taken away en masse, since they're obviously not going to be renting out any more movies. But that's not quite what happened. See, towards the tail end of their business, Redbox didn't even have money to pay people to go and grab the machines from all the 30,000 or so stores they'd been installed in front of, so they just kinda left them there, abandoned. Instead, it was the stores that were left to foot the removal bill. Thousands of kiosks continued to sit outside these stores for months after Redbox went bankrupt, most completely inoperational. But surprisingly, some did still work. For the next few months after bankruptcy, each kiosk would get an occasional visitor oblivious to the fact that the company had collapsed and use the machines as usual, renting a movie and returning it sometime later. But people soon noticed the machines that worked had an interesting quirk. See, by default, these kiosks are connected to the internet to handle customer account and payment info. But they also have a built-in offline mode, so that if for whatever reason, be it a storm or a power outage pulls them off the Wi-Fi, customers can still rent movies. Their information is stored locally on the machine, and when it reconnects to the internet, transaction info gets uploaded. But if the company went bankrupt, that means there were no servers to handle customer info, and now the machines are in offline mode by default. And if the company went bankrupt, they should no longer be allowing users to rent out movies from the machines, even if they are offline. But some did. And if the company went bankrupt, that meant if you rented a movie, there shouldn't be any charges on your bank account. And there weren't. Yes, within just a couple months of Redbox going in the red, people caught wind of the fact that you could literally get movies from these kiosks for free, so long as you weren't caught red-handed. From what I can tell, this phenomenon was first pointed out by Redditors on August 21st, 2024. Then again in a couple Reddit posts on September 8th, first with someone asking if you actually could get free movies from these kiosks, and then a person posting a picture of them actually doing it, having hauled away at least 36 Redbox movies. This little trick was kept somewhat secret for about a month longer. After all, if everyone knew that these Redboxes were dispensing free DVDs, they'd be empty within hours. But the secret would get out eventually, and so began Redboxtober. On the 1st of October, an article published in the business outlet Sherwood pointed out that people seemed to be renting the discs free of charge, advising readers to, quote, plunder the corpse of Redbox at their own risk. As YouTuber Smokin' Silicon pointed out in a video that now has over 1 million views, the scant number of working kiosks in his vicinity were indeed giving out movies for free. He, like a good boy, returned those movies by the due date. But you didn't necessarily have to. There would be no punishment for keeping the movies forever, so that's what people did under the stated mission of saving the CDs. This guy saved Barbie. This user snagged 3 movies: Children of the Corn, Pet Sematary, and Coming to America. This user got The Seventh Day for free. A trend you're gonna see is that most of the films that people manage to get their hands on at this point suck. On October 19th, a TikToker showed himself getting Joe Bell, Boo 2, Barbie, and Bad Boys free of charge. Lots of B movies. This TikTok was then featured in a Daily Dot article a few days later, bringing a lot more attention to the phenomenon. Most people only got 1 or 2 discs, sometimes 3, but the movies were hauled out in increasingly ridiculous numbers. This user got 8 discs that he planned to give out for Christmas. This person snagged 17 CDs. This dude got 23. This user got 34. This foot got 45. This couple here got 47. This cowboy lassoed in 53. This user managed to pull out 60 discs. This individual got 90 of those suckers. This one's about to break 3 digits. Obviously, not everyone was in on the game. One user described scoring 3 discs before a manager yelled at them to get out of the store. Another managed to save 108 films before a store employee unplugged the machine on them. And the people who spent hours siphoning the machines of hundreds of discs were sometimes interrupted by oblivious customers who came to return their movies. It was on October 27th that I first heard about the free flicks via a post in a Discord server. I figured I had to get my hands on some of these. They'd make for a great historical relic to show to my grandchildren. So this guy here got no less than 15 discs. Would I be as lucky? Nope. Taking my brother along, we went to the one machine we would always hit up in years past, the Redbox at the Walgreens on the corner of Rollins and Cedar Lake in Round Lake Beach, Illinois. Sadly, it was already powered off. But no worries, there are plenty more in the area to try. The next Redbox was a few minutes down the road at a Jewel-Osco. It's a Midwest regional grocery chain. The screen at this one was frozen. Next up was another Jewel-Osco store in another town, but again the screen was non-functional. So the first day was a bust, but I was determined to try again tomorrow. Nationwide, some far more impressive hauls were taking place. This dude has 120, 121. This jerk took home 452 discs. This guy emptied an entire goddamn kiosk, a process which took 4 hours. 1,034 Redbox CDs. Holy moly. A couple films that were apparently off limits were Top Gun and Twister, which, despite users' best efforts, the Redbox kiosks refused to dispense. I canvassed a few more spots on October 28th. My Maps app told me there was a kiosk at a nearby Woodman's, but I arrived to find their Redbox had been replaced with a Pokemon machine, and I was pretty certain I wasn't going to get any discs out of that thing. So next I went to a Walmart, inoperational. I then went to another supermarket in the same town. A sign on their kiosk told me to leave it be. I lastly went to a Jewel-Osco out in the boonies, where again, the machine wanted to be left alone. I visited one more machine the next day, outside of Walgreens, but alas, the screen was turned off and no movies could be extracted. I wasn't so determined to get my hands on some Redbox discs that I would be willing to drive further to check out other kiosks, so this is where my search ended. Oh well. Most people encountered the same problem that I did. Kiosk after kiosk that was inoperational. Faced with this, most would either give up or move on to the next machine, but a few bad eggs decided they weren't going to take no for an answer. There were a handful of reported instances of people just straight up prying the kiosks open with a crowbar to access the trove of discs inside. A few people, channeling their inner spooge, decided to steal the entire machine, though admittedly I'm not sure about the veracity of these reports. Plenty of people understood the temptation of taking a Redbox home with them though, and were willing to do so by more diplomatic means. Many store owners, desperate to get the power-sucking eyesores off their property, gladly gave people permission to remove the machines for them either for free or for a small price. So, those who had a truck and enough strength to lift a half-ton behemoth onto the bed now lay claim to a truly fascinating artifact, and they began dissecting it for its secrets. You've probably never seen the inside of a Redbox kiosk before, and I must say they look pretty gnarly. A large motorized cylinder makes up the bulk of the interior, with 8 stories of disk space and a total capacity of 600 to 700 disk cartridges. So there you go, you just scored more than 1,000 flicks to watch. But some people wanted to take their analysis further. How did the internal software of these kiosks work? As tinkerers toyed with and reverse engineered the machine's computers, a whole Redbox hacking community began to flourish. Perhaps the most alarming revelation from this hacking effort was the discovery that the personal info and payment details of thousands of customers could be accessed from data that was left over in the machines. Tinkerers found that they could recover stuff like your email address, zip code, parts of your credit card number, and worst of all, the titles of whatever degenerate movies you rented out. Now, under normal circumstances, this would have likely spelled the beginning of a massive lawsuit. But of course, Redbox no longer exists, so it doesn't look like anything actually became of this. Anyways, the tinkerers kept on tinkering, and of course, like any good hacking community, they got the machines to run Doom. There's now an entire wiki dedicated to hackers sharing information on how the Redbox system works. Ever wanted to learn how the kiosk's internal AC unit functioned? How about picking through the computer's vast registry? If you're a big old programming nerd, you may find this site pretty interesting. So what happened to the rest of the Redbox kiosks? Well, a lot of them were finally towed away and dismantled by contractors hired by the stores rather than by Redbox. As Hackaday reported in November of 2024, one of the biggest names in this scene were the junk luggers. These folks took care of thousands of kiosks nationally in just a matter of weeks. As for the DVDs inside those kiosks, they've done their best to donate as many as they can instead of throwing them away. As of recording, there are still a very small number of Redbox kiosks out in the wild. Almost all are inoperational, but people on r/Redbox have been managing to find ones that still work somehow, nearly 2 years after the company went out of business. The exact number of remaining machines is unknown, but a website called RBMap has been doing its best to catalog them all. I used it to help me remember which Redbox machines I visited during the Plunder back in 2024. So, my personal efforts to save some CDs from Redbox failed, and while I may feel blue that I couldn't get my hands on a piece of history, thousands of other discs have found greener pastures, whether on the black market or in someone's archive, ensuring that even the worst films that the red boxes have dispensed remain preserved.
So move over, darling, if my heart bends, I'll know. And if I had to stay, you know I would have stayed.